What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fans Anonymous. We're having a great conversation today about networking. Networking, and how vital it is. I got some great guys on here with me today. I got my man Alex Hampton. You guys know Alex from the Fandom Talk series from Momentum Media. What's going on, Alex?
What's going on, Malcolm? It's a pleasure to be back on the show, and I can't wait to dive into this topic, man. We always have a good time doing these episodes.
Oh, yeah, man, we do. We have a really good time. And for the first time on the Fans Anonymous YouTube channel and podcast network, my man Jeremy Evans from the 2020 podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, what's up? It's a pleasure. You already know. I'm just glad to be here, brother.
What's going on? Before we get started, Jeremy, go ahead and drop that plug, man. Let us know what you do.
All right, man. Well, I'm 2012. My name is Jeremy Evans. I'm here from Mobile, Alabama. I go by the name of Sir. I go by the name of Sir for our 2020 podcast. We specialize in doing interviews for events, careers, just any kind of conversation that the city is having. We're there to definitely spread that voice around. So if you're looking to follow us, hey, hit us up. We're 20/20 podcast on Facebook, YouTube, all that. Come find us.
Let's do it. The 2020 podcast, you guys go check that out. Let's go ahead and get this conversation started. We're talking about networking and how vital and important it is. Networking is what got all three of us on this podcast together right now that we're talking to you guys. I don't know Alex or Jeremy from Adam Cat Scratch, as the old folks used to say, but just moving along throughout life, moving along through our different circles and groups and organizations and people and friends, family, neighbors, cats, dogs, pets, lizards, squirrels, whatever, what have you. It brought us all three together into what we've been doing. I've done some work with Jeremy. I do a lot of work with my man Alex. We do a lot of things together as well over in the area that we work in, and it's vital. It's vital because the person that you know might need to see what you're doing, and the person that person knows, and the person that person knows, and it continues to just create this positive chain and this positive synergy, because maybe 3 or 4 people down the line, that might be that person that can impart into your network, and then you can turn around and impart into their network for whatever it is they're doing. You might have somebody that does not know how to make logos, but you do. And then that person knows how to make video graphics for you. And then that network creates that synergy. And next thing you know, both of you guys are booming in areas that you were lacking in at first. That's just one piece of networking. Jeremy, give me your spiel.
Well, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. When you're trying to start out, especially with the dream, it's very easy to get into the mindset that it's just me right now and it's all for one and one for all. And you kind of have to step outside your comfort zone and get comfortable sharing information. Sometimes, just like you said, a simple conversation can change your outlook on all kinds of topics. And just to delve into our conversations we've had, there's been times when we've messaged each other, 11:30 in the middle of the night. Yep. Hey, bro, what you think about this? What you think about this? And then, just coming together and sharing outlooks is vital, because not only will you get a more complete look at a situation, but it also gives you some diversity that is much needed. And also, we said, sometimes you'll inspire each other. Sometimes that healthy competition that, okay, I see their work, it makes me want to work. So I think is vital.
Now, I'm going to use Alex prime example. Alex, me and you met each other January, maybe? Has it been that long?
No, we met each other right when I was promoting my Static Shock. I want to say about like in September.
Oh, man, it's been that long. It doesn't even feel like it.
Yeah.
Doesn't even feel like it. So,
yeah.
Since September, me and Alex have created this synergy to where, just like Jeremy said, I can hit him up at 11, 12 o'clock at night. We're just messaging back and forth on, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Me and Alex, we talk at least twice a day. At least twice a day. And we just be having our normal superhero comic book conversations. We be having our normal, what do you think about this, me doing this or me doing that conversation, and just throwing things at each other, trying to build something. Like, for an example, it took us probably about a week, but Alex wanted to rename his channel. He wanted to rename who he was. He wanted to rebrand himself, to put himself in a different light, in a different medium, based on where he wanted to plant his feet in this industry for what we do in social media. And it took us about a week or so, you think?
Yeah, about maybe 2 weeks.
But yeah, it took us 2 weeks of literally daily conversation, brainstorming and trying to make things make sense, and using the dictionary and the thesaurus and calling on Jesus to get to the point where I was able to help him create a new brand and a new thing. Can you explain, Alex, what that synergy was like for you and how it can benefit others? And also, just like Jeremy had the opportunity to, let me know what you think about networking.
Yeah, so like Malcolm said, Malcolm actually reached out to me sometime in September because I had just completed shooting and post-production of my short film, Static Shock Uprising, which you guys can check out on my YouTube channel. And at the time, he reached out to me, and I was just, I was marketing. And he sent me a message to my my Facebook fan page, and at the time I had got like a couple messages before from different people that were just like fake people. Not necessarily they were fake, but they were like fake pages of stuff. So when Malcolm hit me up, I didn't know if he was an actual real person until he kept.
I'm a real boy.
so yeah. So he hit me up and he told me that he wanted to interview me, like right there. And then we scheduled an interview, and I did the interview on his channel. And I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the interview. I've seen it, but I'm saying I haven't seen it since we've done it. And I remember during the time of me promoting my film before it came out, like his interview received so much traction that people were coming to me and saying, "Hey, I heard your interview on Fans Anonymous, and where's your YouTube page? Like, I wanna see your content." So, I would show them my page, and we just got linked. We just linked from that, and then from that point on, when the film came out, I believe it came out on Malcolm's birthday, which was November 1st. Malcolm was like one of the first 5 people I sent it to. Then I sent it to everybody else, and then I just released it online, and I had got good response from it. And then from that point on, me and Malcolm really just been linking. Like, so, like, for instance, like, Malcolm does a lot of interviews, a lot of Comic Cons, and I know at one point I was trying to get into that space of, okay, I've been doing YouTube since 2016. Oh, well, before 2016, but in 2016 is when I was consistent. So when I started being more consistent on it, I had to change my name because the previous name before it was Momentum Media was called Brand New Productions. And when I look at that, I'm like, okay, that name doesn't necessarily, fit my content, and it doesn't necessarily get people to come to my channel. So I had to switch it up. And I knew that Malcolm was really good at, thinking outside the box and finding new things to make things pop. Like Fans Anonymous, I would have never thought of something like that, but those 2 words just flow. They just flow for me. They flow, and when you say it's kind of like you could say it like in a rap song or something, And at one point, his intros were a rap song about Fans Anonymous. I was like, that's dope. Like, I was like, yo, that's really dope. So, like, since then, like, we've been working together. And then he helped me change the name to Momentum Media. One night we finally cracked it, and we got it to Momentum Media. That very next day, I dropped a video saying that I'm changing the name of my YouTube channel. And since then, like, and I told Malcolm this before, like, the recent interviews that I've done, Malcolm was my first interview that I've done. And then from that point on, Like, I've done interviews with other actors in Los Angeles, other podcasters in Los Angeles. I recently did an interview with Robert Meyer Burnett that's currently on my channel, and then I got another interview with a dude who's actually played another version of Static in a fan film. I do that interview tomorrow, and and I got all that from working with Malcolm, because Malcolm did interviews with some of the original Power Rangers, almost all of the original Power Rangers. He's done stuff with other people, with other Comic-Con. So what I did is that when I did my first interview with Malcolm, I took all the networking things that we did together, and I just formed it in a way. And now it got to a point where I'm building more relationships in Los Angeles. Like, aside from Malcolm, like, everyone that I've interviewed lives in Los Angeles. And they don't know me from Adam, they don't know, but they share my content, they retweet. Some of the people that I just recently interviewed gave me their contact information just so they know, hey, if I'm ever in Los Angeles, hit me up, we can do something. So, like, networking is very, very important. And this goes into the question of networking. Like, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be a little bit more uncomfortable. And it starts off, in my opinion, with yourself. You have to have a foundation, and you have to know what your content is. You have to know what you're willing to do to get yourself out there. Like I said, Malcolm, and if you ever heard Malcolm's story is amazing. He started in a previous organization. Things didn't work out. He started doing Fans Anonymous almost 2-3 years ago, and he has gotten over 1,300 subscribers. He's built multiple relationships with celebrities who are well known and that we all know from our childhood. I mean, he's done more in the last 2 years in terms of content than I have since I started doing it consistently in 2016. And the funny thing is like, he has over, like, I want to say about maybe 2,000 videos or somewhere in that nature. I only have 155 videos. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, the network, and I honestly believe I wouldn't get to where I am now if I didn't have that event, if I didn't network with Malcolm and other people. So you have to put yourself out there, and in a lot of ways, me and Malcolm, we had this conversation before, like, in a lot of ways, when Malcolm gets an interview with someone, that's a win for all of us. Just like when I get an interview with someone, that's the win for all of us as well. Because if I know if Malcolm can do it, like, the next big person I'm going to interview, aside from the one from Saturday, hopefully it's going to be a famous actor that we all know. And I have to attribute that to the networking that I've done with Malcolm and other individuals. So it really does start small. Like, you just never know. Like, if you start really small, you will grow and get bigger, and then reach the totem poles that you want to reach. And my last and final point to this is in terms of networking, you have to set goals. Like, every day, and I tell my wife this all the time. We actually had this conversation not too long ago. Like, at some point, I'm going to quit my day job and do this full time. At some point. I don't know when. At some point. And you have to set those goals for yourself. So every day I set a goal. I'm like, hey, if I'm doing a video, or if I'm doing another film, or if I'm doing something, what am I doing? Like, now, and I haven't told anybody this, but I'm writing right now three more films that I won't tell anybody just yet what they are. But I'm writing 3 more films. I'm constantly grinding. So it's just, it's a grind, and you have to set goals for yourself every single day. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that in terms of networking.
Well, for one, I got to correct you on something first. You said that everybody that you network with is in Los Angeles except for me, okay? If you didn't know, I live in L.A. too.
That's funny.
Lower Alabama.
Let them know.
But you use the key phrase there. I'm going to throw this over to Jeremy. Jeremy, what does the grind mean? A lot of people don't know what that means.
The grind, and honestly, you have to learn to love it. The grind is putting in those hours. Sometimes staying up late at night. sometimes losing a little bit of sleep, sometimes, dealing with that creator's block. And that's a really tough one. And sometimes you just got to sit back and let things play out. It's understanding the situation and enjoying the process, because I'm going to tell you now that I'm in that starting phase. There's no way to skip to the front of the line. You got to put in your time, bro. So you got to learn to cherish and take advantage of that time to hone your craft, whether it be interviewing, whether it be writing, whether it be, making music. It is so many plateaus and avenues in this industry of media that we're using that every lane has room, and it's all about your pace. So take advantage of those times. It might be times where you might not want to do anything, but you have to look at it like this. Those 2-3 hours I might want to play Xbox or PlayStation, I could be making headway or making connections for my channel. So it's an opportunity cost. So you have to kind of sit down and make the best of your time where you can. And sometimes it may get a little stressful. Don't let that deter you, because if you love it, and I'll repeat this, if you love it, it won't be work for you in the end. It'll be a passion. So those are my thoughts on it, bro.
One thing about me, man, and I appreciate those kind words, Alex. I really do. I just try to put out there the same thing when it works. You know what I'm saying? If it works for me, it could easily work for somebody else. I shared a post the other day. Back in 2014, I wrote a post that said, I hope one day I can get, and this is something you just said a few seconds ago, Alex. You said one day. I hope one day I can get to one of these comic conventions. This is before I even set foot in one. One day I can get to one of these comic. This is 2014. I can get to one of these comic conventions and beat Jason David Frank. And I look at where I'm at now. You could not have told me back in 2014 that you're going to have a YouTube channel. You're going to meet Jason David Frank. You're going to build a relationship with Jason David Frank. Take pictures with him. Have a hour, almost close to an hour-long conversation with the Green Ranger in your living room. And move in that light. You told me that I wouldn't believe you. I thought you was crazy. I'd took you down to the methadone clinic on DIP and put you in the line with the folks at 6 a.m. just to make sure you weren't on those drugs.
Drop them off.
It's one of those things where it's still unbelievable for me. And networking is easier than you all think. And I know you guys know. But for those out there who are listening, it's easier than you think, because sometimes all you got to do is open your mouth and say, hey, I'm me. This is what me does. Me would like to do this for you. Is it possible? You might get a yes, you might get a no. But one thing that's drove me in what I do at Families Anonymous is something that my mama told me a long time ago. My mama told me, can't nobody tell you nothing but no. So if you have the mindset that can't nobody tell you nothing but no, and you don't utilize that, because if the only thing if they can only tell you no, that means they can also have the opportunity to tell you yes. But you'll never know unless you open your mouth. That's where networking starts. Opening your mouth and saying, hey, for an example, I just built one of the most fun things I have ever built in my life. Even more than Legos. I said it's even more than Legos. There's a company called Incredibles. If you guys haven't seen my video, I built a 3D wood model of the Dragonzord from Power Rangers. I had so much fun building that piece of art. And it was so peaceful when I did it. I was in the zone. I was in a Zen type moment when I was working on it. What did I do? I made a video, tagged it on Facebook. I took a clip of the video, put it on Instagram. Do you know that the company responded to my post and said, we're glad you had a lot of fun making that? I went straight to that DM, because now you've given me that door.
There you go.
Now I see that you're paying attention to me. You've given me that door. Now it's time for me to open my mouth. Went straight to that DM, let them know, hey, who I am. I came out front. I said, honestly, I don't want any money. If you can give me some more of the bills, I will build them, put you guys' logo on my video, and post it to my channel. They say, you know what, we'll get back with you when we talk to our team. I said, I appreciate that. Whew. Now they can they can come back and tell me no. Or they can come back and tell me yes. But I did that first part, which is opening your mouth. So Alex, give us a situation where you were afraid to open your mouth and you didn't, and give us a situation where you did. In networking.
So yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. So, you know, when I changed my channel to Momentum Media, I said that, you know, this show that I do like every Monday is called Ask Alex, where I just take questions from my subscribers or Twitter followers or Instagram followers, and I answer them on my show, and they are like they have to be questions that are relevant to what's going on in movie news today or something that I find interesting. I said, let me flip it. Like, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to do interviews on this particular show as well. So, like I was saying earlier, my first interview was with Malcolm. So I said, you know, let me do this differently. I do want to interview actors and movie directors and people who work in the business and media personalities. But in order for me to do that, I have to reach out to them. Now, there's this one person I still haven't gotten to my show yet, but I'm working on it. So after I did that interview with Malcolm, I said, okay, I would love to have what's his name? I just escaped my head. Dang, John Campia on my show, and he and I was like, you know what? I think that's too far of a jump. Let me just chill and just focus on someone else. Like, nah, let me just not do it, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, how do I go about doing this? So I went to my pastor. My pastor lives back in Pensacola, and I live streamed some of his church services. And you know, he says for this year's theme in 2019 is to ask God for the hard thing. And I said, you know what? You know, I went, you know, I moved to Orlando. Mind you, I moved to Orlando with my family all in faith. You know, we had things lined up for us, but still, this was such a big thing. And I said, you know, I'm in a bigger city, new opportunity. God is already showing me that I can do this. So why should I coward and not just ask for the hard thing? So I said, you know what? I'm going to put John Campion on the side, and let me ask some other media commentators. So my second interview was with Devon Stewart, who is also an actor, film director, and he's also a part of the Collider movie trivia Schmodown, which is very well known on the internet. Just doing the interview with him, when I reached out to him on Instagram, and he hit me back. I was like, yo, like, I didn't even expect it. We set up times, we did the interview. Just from that one interview, I got to do an interview with, after him, it was with Troy Skinner, who was also an acting coach and a film director. I also got to do, from Choice, again, went to Omar Spy. He does the Dreamers Comic podcast. And then from Omar, it went to Robert Meyer Burnett, who's the co-host of John Campia's show, the guy I originally wanted to interview. So after I did that interview with Robert, I said, yo, Robert, I've been doing it. You're like my fifth or sixth interview. And I thank you for doing this. I would love to have you back on the show. Is there any way I can interview John? Is there any way you can get my information out to John? And I asked him. At first, I didn't want to. I was scared. I was like, you know what? I don't want to, you know, abuse my relationship. But no, I just kept hearing God tell me, yo, ask for the hard things. So I asked Robert. Robert said, you know what? I had so much fun on this show. I will definitely and this is about literally a day or two before he went to CinemaCon. He gave John Campia my information. I emailed John and said, hey, I just had Robert on the show. I would love to have you back on. I would love to have you on the show. And John and Robert did give John my information. And I spoke to him once, and he said that initially he wasn't going to do it because he did make the statement of, like, if I have to interview with you, then I'll have to interview with everyone else. But recently, like recently about a week ago, he said he's considering doing it because he wants to branch out his channel and branch out the things that he's doing. So it's not a confident yes right now, but I will say this is that since I've done that with Robert and potentially John at some point, I didn't stop. So what I did was, like, today, I sent 3 emails out. I sent one to Ryan Coogler. I sent one to Ava DuVernay. I sent one to
there you go.
I sent one to what's the other director? Some other director I can't escape in my mind. But anyway, I sent out to many directors, and like I said, you have to have goals every day. And like I talk to Malcolm about this every day, all the time. Every day I'm sending out emails to people like, hey, I'm Alex from Momentum Media. This is what I'm doing. I would love to have you on the show. Like, every day it has to be like, yo, what can I do to build up my credibility? And since I've done that, my subscriber base was at, like, I want to say 2,200. Now it's at 2,400. I gained over 200 subscribers in the past 3 weeks. And that, I remind you, all the other stuff I was doing before, did allow me to get subscribers, but it's not this rapidly. So I was just like, yo, this is crazy. This is super crazy. So when Malcolm says it's important to network, it's actually very true, because if you don't open your mouth and reach out to these people, you will never know. And Robert said something really key in my interview. He said at the end of the interview, he was like, listen, I'm glad that you reached out, because most people who are in this particular business don't reach out, especially people who are just quote unquote starting out. If you don't reach out, how will we know? And like I said, that whole Collider team, I sent them emails. I'm like, yo, this is what I'm doing. Like, I would love to have you on the show. I got certain things lined up that hasn't panned out yet, but that doesn't stop me. Like, and I've had some people tell me no. If someone tells you no, that should be more motivation for you to reach out to someone else. Because, like, I will say this. There was one particular person that told me no. But after they saw the interview I did with Robert, they're like, yo, I've seen your content. Compared to your subscribers that I've seen on everyone else's page, you don't have that many, like over 2,000 subscribers is not that many compared to other YouTubers. But the fact that I did an interview with Robert, he was like, yo, I'd love to be on the show. Let's schedule a day. And I was like, cool, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, you have to put yourself out there. And I think the problem is that most people are not willing to put themselves out there. That's why people have that trouble of networking.
I want to ask a question to Jeremy. What was your didn't open your mouth, and what was your did open your mouth moment?
Oh, man, that's easy for me. And it's a little bit embarrassing, and I should be ashamed of myself. But when I first started last year, we were invited as a podcast to host and present awards at the Voices of Gospel Music Awards. And I was like, oh, wow, to get a formal invite, that's pretty big. So we're there, and I'm just meeting people I've, never per se heard of, but I'm still excited, and we're just performing interviews upon interviews. And it's funny, it was one guy on the side of me who was recording everything, and we had a little bit of small talk, but I never really asked him for an interview, even though he did tell me he was a director. I was like, oh, okay, you're a director, that's cool, And something in the back of my mind was like, get his interview, and I didn't. So lo and behold, about a year later, I'm just circling through the news. I hear of a director who's won a independent movie award and will be filming a video for the rapper Lil Durk with Dame Dash. And I'm like, wow, that's dope, for Mobile to get that opportunity. And I look at the picture, and sure enough, the guy's name was Marcellus Hudson, the guy who was standing right next to me at the Voices of Gospel Music Awards. So I missed out on a huge opportunity, all because I didn't set my pride aside and open my mouth. And it's funny because things did come full circle, because I did run into him again. And I, told him the story, and we remembered each other. And I was like, man, we got to do an interview. We did the interview the next day. And he told me his story, and it was amazing. And I apologized to him, because that was a real lesson learned. Never be too proud, or never be too shy or anxious to, to do anything. And when you're starting out, just like the previous guy said, you really need to get your name out there. And if you don't stand up and say who you are and get in contact with people, they're not going to know who you are. And you'd be surprised who may be a nobody today to you could be the guy tomorrow.
Right.
So I managed to link up with him, and now we're working on a couple of projects together, and it goes back to networking, And one time I did open my mouth. My co-host and I were going live and just discussing some things, and just a random lady popped on our live and jumped in our inbox. And so normally when someone jumps in our inbox, they're usually trying to get at my co-host, because she's a pretty young lady. So I'm like, here we go. So I look in the inbox, and it was another invitation. And I'm just like, okay, what's this? So I talked to the young lady, and we sat and talked, I kid you not, for maybe 2 hours. And I recorded our conversation, and with her permission, I printed it as an interview. Well, her committee heard the interview because she passed it around, and I had no idea. But the committee was the driving force behind the Mardi Gras Expo convention that we have here in Mobile, where we invite vendors from out of town to see what Mardi Gras would be like. And it is basically kind of like a Comic-Con for Mardi Gras, basically. And the board was so impressed with our interview that we got invited to have our own section for free. And so we were the only podcast at the official Mobile Mardi Gras convention. We were just there. And it's so crazy. We were so struck just to be in front of all these businesses. And here I made sure I had like 10,000 business cards. We're just handing them out to everybody. I'm meeting people from Atlanta, New Orleans, Sacramento, just from everywhere. And they were like, oh, that's cool, that you're the only podcast here. Here, get me for an interview, and it's just amazing what can happen with the power of your voice. So never downplay yourself. There's a listening ear somewhere.
When I'm at these conventions, I'm running around like a chicken with no head. Like, for people who travel with me to conventions, they know what I'm talking about. My crew from fandoms know what I'm talking about. Once I get started at a convention, once I get my mics taped up, once I get my stuff, my sound and everything, do my sound test, it is off to the races from there. At that point, I am non-stop until I have interviewed everybody from the smallest celebrity at a convention to the biggest. That's why I have so much content when I come back home from a con, and I make sure it all gets uploaded for everybody to see, because you never know who you talk to. Like, I'll pull up on people and be like, hey, my name's Malcolm, let's do an interview. Oh, really? Yeah, I want to interview you. And people are shocked and appalled. And sometimes they're not ready for it, and sometimes they don't know what it's all going to be about. I interviewed my man Jeffrey Gwynn. He is an amazing artist out of Birmingham. I interviewed him one time at a comic book store here in Montgomery, and every time I see him at a con, I interviewed him. But when I did that first interview of him, that interview got over 1,000 views on Facebook, because people who know him and know what he does, they were able to see him visually on video and see what he was about, even though they knew that video was a different ballgame, and people just kept sharing until it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So now when we do an interview at the con, he still says, you know, I get nervous when I do these things with you, man, but you make me feel comfortable, and that's what's important. Even in networking, you have to make the person that you're networking with feel comfortable. Do not always go with your hand out looking for something. If you're going to put your hand out, have something in your hand to offer. Because when you're networking, it's not just to, let me get your number, you get my number, we'll talk. No, it's, hey, my name is such and such, I do this. And that person might be, my name is such and such, I do that. And you can blend those things together, and it makes a beautiful synergy. So I'm glad you guys got a chance to listen to us talk about networking and how vital and important it is. I want to let you guys give any last remarks that you have. Jeremy, I want you to go ahead and go first, man.
Last remarks, man, just, it can be scary. You know, a lot of times I think the hardest thing to do is to take that first step when approaching people. I know personally because I suffer from anxiety. And so it can be a barrier, but it's so exciting when you do take that step. And then that person takes a sigh of relief and they say yes, you know. And also, just like Malcolm said, when you hear a no, don't be discouraged. You know, just know that you took that time to try. You know, one of my best friends has a quote that I'll never forget. He told me he'd rather die with certainty than live with uncertainty. So I go by that creed. I encourage you guys to do the same because, listen, very rarely will success find you. You have to take your own journey, your own route, your own way, your own creed, and your own, you know, journey to find it. So go out there and get it. It's yours for the taking.
All right, Alice, what you got?
Yo, I would say that, you know, that kind of like what Jeremy was saying, you know, you have to just go get it, man. It's a constant grind. And what I would say is that first you have to figure out, you know, what your foundation is, number one. You have to establish that because, truthfully speaking, if you don't know what your foundation is, you can't really do what you want to do. You know, ultimately my foundation is in God, but in order for me to do what I'm doing now, I had to figure out what the type of plan I needed to lay out. And I couldn't just, I mean, you can, you know, most people do this now, you know, most people just throw something out there and just do it. You know, me personally, I'm more of an analytical person, so I like to think things through and establish a play-by-play of how I'm going to do something. So personally, I would tell people, establish a plan of where you want to go and then just drive it. You know, I read Steve Harvey's book called Soar, amazing book. He, in the book, it basically just sums up like, listen, you'll never know what your life will be if you don't make that jump. But he says, I can guarantee you one thing. If you don't jump, your parachute will never open. And I was just like, you know, but there's a caveat to that as well. It's like, if you do jump, there's not a guarantee it's going to open the first time you do jump. You will get tore up. You will get hurt by those rocks. But the fact of the matter is that at the end of that jump, God catches you. You go back up. You do it again. And you got to keep doing it again and again and again and again and again until your parachute opens. But I can guarantee you one thing. If you don't jump, your parachute will never open. Again, I had these conversations with my wife all the time. I do not want to be doing something. I don't want to be working for someone that I don't necessarily like what I'm doing. Versus I want to do something that I actually enjoy doing on a consistent basis. So, you know, and again, like me and my wife, we just had this conversation, like at some point, you know, I'm going to be doing this full time. Like this is how I'm going to be making my money, taking care of my family. I'm not going to be doing something that I don't love. I just feel as though God has brought me through so much and again blessed me with so much that I don't have to settle for less, you know, just keep going and going and going. So to wrap things up, you have to constantly grind. You have to let your no, like if someone tells you no, that means that another door just opened for you. That's how I look at that. If someone told you no, another door literally just opened for you. And when you see that door, run for it. Like I said, like I was just saying earlier, like I sent out so many emails to people who you wouldn't even think that would probably do my show. But you never know. I might have Ryan Coogler on next week. We just don't know. And if we do, it's like I said, and if I do, it's like I said, it's the effort of grinding. Listen, I'm sending out emails. I'm connecting with people. I've never been to Los Angeles in my life. Never. But I now have connections with people who are willing to work with me, all because I took the time to reach out. So you have to reach out, and that's how important networking is. And if you cannot, and I don't mean to say this to be harsh, but if you can't take the word no, then you might not be able to do this business. And that's not to say that you're incapable. It's just saying that if you are going to allow that no to defeat you, then maybe you should look at doing something else. So that's what I would say.
Most definitely. I really appreciate both of you guys jumping on with me today. Jeremy, let everybody know where they can find you at, man.
All right, man. If you're on YouTube, you can find me at 20/20 podcast. Again, that's 20/20 podcast. And if you're on Facebook, it will be 20/20 podcast. We Dating Fresh. That's WEDATINGFRESH. And also, if you want to hit me up on my personal page about an interview, my personal page is Sir, and that's SIRR, the number 2, U. So again, that's Sir, SIRR, the number 2, the letter U. And that's it, man. Hit me up.
All right, man. Alex, where can everybody find you, man?
Before I say where everyone can find me, I just want to let Jeremy know I just went to your YouTube page and subscribed to you, and definitely check out your content. But yeah, you guys can. Oh, anytime, bro. But you guys can find me at Momentum Media on YouTube. If you type in Momentum Media, you will literally see my videos on YouTube. So go check that out. You can also like my Facebook page at Momentum Media. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Alex Hampton. You can also follow me on Instagram at Mr. Alex Hampton. I think the best way to get in contact with me would also be through Instagram and YouTube, because I'm on both of those platforms a lot more than I am my other ones. And just a quick little plug, I will be at Orlando MegaCon this year, and I cannot wait. We're going to be meeting a whole bunch of different famous celebrities, and prayerfully I can get an interview with one of those people. So stay tuned for that. We are releasing new content almost every day. So yeah, those are my plugs.
Most definitely. You guys know who we are over here. We're FANDOMSANONYMOUS. All over social media right here on YouTube where you watch this. We're also on SoundCloud, Google Play Music, and Apple Podcasts. All of that is thanks to networking from my man Jeremy right here on this podcast right now. He guided me on how to get all of that started. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. We're also on Instagram. We're at Sandals_Anonymous17, and hit the like on the Facebook fan page, Sandals Anonymous. Guys, we thank you for joining us today, and as always, we'll see you guys in another video.